Today on Mother Mayhem.
This moment hits differently when you grow up with unpredictability, with criticism, emotional landmines, and that constant pressure to morph yourselves into whatever version of yourself was the safest in that particular room. Welcome back to Mother Mayhem, the podcast for daughters of narcissistic and emotionally limited mothers. I'm your host, Heather Gray. And Mayhem, here we are, New Year's Eve. Somehow we have made it to the end of another year, another season, another emotional marathon disguised as a holiday month. And before we go anywhere today, I want to start by imagining what this moment might feel like for all of you inside of your own minds right now, inside of your bodies, inside the stories you've been carrying this year. New Year's Eve has this funny way of putting a spotlight on everything we didn't do, what we didn't finish, what we didn't feel ready for, or what we didn't heal fast enough. And I know so many daughters are going to be listening today with this quiet, heavy question running in the background. Was this year enough? Was I enough? Did any of this healing I've been doing even freaking work? Maybe you're sitting with the sting of feeling like your entire year got sidetracked by your healing. Like you spent so much time just surviving triggers, getting through the holidays, navigating boundaries, recovering from emotional landmines, that your actual life ended up feeling like it got put on hold. Maybe you thought that if you finally named the truth or you set the boundary and went low contact or no contact, you'd be feeling better by now. And instead, you find yourself feeling gutted and alone and untethered in a way that you weren't actually prepared for. Some of you might be feeling betrayed by your own healing. Like you did the right thing, you made the brave choice, you did the things, you did all of the things, you followed the steps everyone said would bring relief, and instead, all of this unresolved pain just kept rising to the surface. And now you find yourself thinking, if this is the right path, why do I feel worse? Why does it feel like I lost more than I gained? When do I get to feel better? Some of you ended this year with fewer people than you started with. You told the truth, you held the boundary, you said the hard thing, and instead of closeness, it brought distance. Instead of support, you ended up with silence. And you might be wondering if healing is worth it when the cost feels so incredibly high. Some of you feel completely worn out from trying so hard, trying to regulate, trying to show up differently, trying not to spiral, trying to reparent yourselves, trying to breathe through the panic, trying to be gentle, trying to be resilient. And you're ending this year thinking, shouldn't this feel better than it does? Shouldn't I be further along by now? And then there are you daughters who feel disappointed in yourselves. Not because you even did something wrong, but because your nervous systems ended up having other plans. Maybe you had goals you didn't touch this year because dysregulation kept freaking knocking you over. Maybe you wanted to grow, but instead you found yourself spending months recovering from things that shouldn't have ever happened in the first place. Maybe you're sitting here wondering if you've wasted your time, or if you took a few steps backward, or if you somehow broke the healing process because you're not quite feeling the transformation you hoped you would be feeling by this New Year's Eve. Wherever you all land in any of this, however much of a hot mess express you feel like you are right now, here is what I want all of you to know. You are not doing this healing thing wrong. You're not supposed to be feeling all shiny and new right now. Healing is not a straight line. It is not a makeover. Sometimes it just feels like you're putting lipstick on a pig. Not that I'm calling all of you pigs right now, but you know what I'm talking about, right? That whole feeling of faking it till you make it. All the while you're wondering when you might actually make it or if you're ever going to make it. Sometimes healing feels like losing things before you gain yourself. Sometimes it feels like the lights go out before you learn how to see differently. And sometimes it feels like you did everything right, and still you ended up sitting inside of emotions you don't quite know how to hold just yet. And that doesn't mean this thing isn't working. It means you're in it. It means you're human. It means your nervous system is doing exactly what a trauma-informed nervous system does when it finally stops running long enough to actually feel. So if you're entering this New Year's Eve feeling unsure, tender, disappointed, lonely, proud, relieved, confused, exhausted, hopeful, or any or all of the above, I am really glad you're here. Truly. I'm grateful you chose to spend this time with me. And I'm holding the truth of your experience with so much care as we start to talk about what comes next. Now, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. If you came here hoping for some new year, new you energy, you already know that I adore you, but you are absolutely in the wrong place. I mean it. I love you, but no, wrong show. The sparkly, glittery, toxic positivity message that pops up everywhere this time of year, the one that insists that you can transform yourself overnight, set 1,000 goals, reinvent your entire identity before that ball drops, well, those are messages built on shame. They assume that you already aren't enough. It assumes your worthiness is conditional. And daughters, we do not do that here. Not in Mayhem, and not on my watch. That doesn't mean we aren't talking about your new year, though, because we're going to be. But the conversation we are going to have is rooted in truth and something far more real. You all know me by now. And of course, I have a lot of thoughts about your year ahead. I have hopes for you, real ones, grounded ones. And I do honestly see possibilities for you that you probably can't quite see for yourselves yet. And I believe you are ready for more than you think you are, just not in the way everyone else has been trying to package it for you. Before we talk about what I see for you in 2026, I want to normalize something that's really important. Why New Year's Eve can be so activating and triggering for all of you. I need you to know that this isn't just about the fireworks, the parties, the champagne, all the resolutions. This moment hits differently when you grow up with unpredictability, with criticism, emotional landmines, and that constant pressure to morph yourselves into whatever version of yourself was the safest in that particular room. When the world starts talking about fresh starts, daughters end up getting reminded of how many times you all actually did try to start over inside the same house, with the same mom, inside of the same patterns, hoping that this time, this change, this new reinvention would be different. And so when the world starts talking about transformation, you daughters end up remembering all of the ways you've already had to reinvent yourselves as children just trying to survive. When the world starts singing and yammering on about celebration and vision boards, daughters end up feeling this quiet pressure to finally get it right, to shake off the past, to stop being too much or too sensitive or too emotional, as if healing is this performance instead of the process we have all come to know it to be. And then there's the comparison trap, right? You start seeing these curated images of everyone else's productivity, everyone else's joy, everyone else's forward motion. And if your nervous system already lives in a state of alarm and high alert, this is going to end up feeling like a punch in the gut. And then we add in the exhaustion of the holiday season, the dysregulation, the vigilance, all of those relational dynamics you've been navigating, and your system ends up tapped the fuck out. It's tired. It's overstimulated. It's still scanning for threat before 2026 actually even begins. So if you're feeling behind, you're not. If you're feeling overwhelmed, I get it. That makes a lot of sense to me. If you're feeling the pressure to do better, well, of course you do. And if you feel that urge to scrap everything and reinvent yourself, that is your trauma brain talking, not your truth. Nothing is wrong with you. Your body's remembering. Your nervous system is responding exactly the way a trauma-affected nervous system is going to respond at the end of this incredibly long, emotionally heavy month. And this is why I want us to start to pivot into something new, something that's a little more true, and something that actually works. Because, daughters, I don't want a new you. I genuinely, truly don't. What I want for you and what I know is within reach is to see yourselves with the same compassion and the same understanding that I see for you. I don't just see daughters. I see whole women who are so much more than the stories they've survived. And my hope is that this is the year you begin to see that in yourselves too. I want you to see yourselves clearly, to like yourselves genuinely, and to respect yourselves so deeply. Because here's the thing, when you start to look at yourself in that way, what becomes possible is a version of you who talks to herself with kindness instead of with criticism. It becomes a version of you who doesn't end up disappearing the second something gets hard, but you stay with yourself the way you stay with everyone else. It becomes a version of you that doesn't override her body, but listens to your body as if it has something worthwhile to say, because it does. You become a version of you who trusts your own instincts instead of outsourcing every decision to someone else's comfort or approval. And you become a version of you who knows deep down that being on your own side isn't selfish. It's how you finally get free. I am not asking any of you to become someone new. I'm not asking you to reinvent yourselves. I want you to become someone you are willing to befriend, someone you can be in relationship with, someone you no longer walk away from. And this right here is the heartbeat of mayhem in 2026. The entire movement I am inviting you into, becoming a better friend to yourself, not in some cheesy self-help way, not in a love yourself more way, not in a speak your affirmations in the mirror kind of way, even though I can be down for some real affirmation talk every once in a while. But instead, in this deeply real, lived, moment-to-moment way, daughters build trust within themselves after childhoods that have been filled with so much betrayal and confusion. Being a better friend to yourself requires being present, showing up for yourself even when you're scared, It requires consistency, not perfection, but being steady. It requires kindness without sugarcoating, but in a more compassionate way of relating to your pain. And it requires so much honesty, truth without being cruel. And most of all, it is going to require staying with your discomfort instead of running away from it, staying with your emotions and your feelings instead of shoving them right down, staying with your needs instead of dismissing them or disregarding them, and staying with your body instead of abandoning it when it starts to feel too much. And the way we're going to practice is this. The way we build it is not through dramatic resolutions or big sweeping declarations. We're going to be doing it in small shifts, the tiniest possible movements that your nervous system can actually tolerate. Trauma-informed healing is never going to be about big, gigantic steps. It's about little, tiny, micro movements, little stretches. Remember the inchworm thing that I've talked to you about in other episodes. It's going to be those micro movements that create new experiences, and they're going to be experiences where you treat yourself differently than you have been treated. And the truth of all of this is those tiny adjustments end up doing the heaviest lifting. Every single time you make a different choice, even the barely noticeable ones, your brain starts to rewire itself. Your nervous system learns that it doesn't have to brace quite so hard. Old generational patterns that felt like they were set in stone start to begin to actually loosen. You start being able to stay with yourselves in moments where you might have disappeared before. And slowly and quietly, you begin building an inner world that feels less like a battleground and more like a place that you can actually live inside of. That is what we are talking about here. Not big, grand, sweeping gestures, not total reinventions, just the steady, compassionate shifts that create real change from the inside out. I want to tell you what I hope for you in 2026, not in a fantasy way, but in the most mayhem way that I know how to say this. I hope this is the year where your nervous system stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a messenger. I hope this is the year where you stop gaslighting yourself about what you feel, what you know, and what you need. And I want this to be the year where you hold your boundaries without collapsing under guilt or shame after doing so. I hope this is the year where you listen to your actual self, not the internalized voice of your mom, not the expectations of others, and not the fear of disappointing people. Just you. I want this to be the year where your self-talk starts getting a hell of a lot nicer. You don't have to blow rainbows and glitter up your asses. We know this, but fake positivity is never going to get us anywhere. But I do think you can talk to yourselves with honesty and gentleness, and dare I say, even a little bit of hope, because I so want this to be the year where you let yourself rest without punishment. I hope this is the year where you choose yourself in those tiny, decidedly unsexy, quiet moments, mornings, evenings, little check-ins during the day, moments no one else is ever going to applaud, but that will mean everything to your body and to your younger self. And most of all, I hope this is the year where you feel like you are finally on your own side. We're going to walk into this year together. This podcast is going to be your weekly companion, helping you make sense of all of this. We'll talk about what being a better friend to yourself looks like in conflict, in relationships, in boundaries, in exhaustion, and in those small moments where trauma brain ends up getting really loud. And inside the Mayhem Daughters community and our weekly groups, we're going to be taking this work deeper. We're going to go slower and safer with the support and guidance and a space that's going to mirror back your courage for you. You always have a standing invite to join us at either of those places. You can find all the information you need to do so over at mayhemdaughters.com. And because I never want us to just all get pie in the sky about all of this, we're going to start right now. I want to give you a few small shifts you can start practicing here and now. Real, gentle, actionable steps that are not going to overwhelm your system. One small shift you can try is softening the tone you use with yourself by just 5%. Just 5. If your inner critic says, "Why can't you get it together?" Maybe today it becomes, "God damn, this shit is hard. Let's just try." Don't you all think that right there is being a better friend to yourself? Wouldn't you want your friends saying something like that to you? Another shift is placing your hand on your chest for just 3 seconds when you feel overwhelmed, not to force yourself into any kind of calm, but to cue yourself that you are being present with yourself, that you are in it with yourself inside of this very moment, to signal presence. A quick hand on your chest can be saying, "I'm here, I'm staying with you." That alone can start to change how anxious you are. I watch it happen every single week inside of group. Regularly, I am cueing daughters to put their hands on their chests and say, "I believe me." And every single time I do, I see their shoulders drop. I watch the exhale. And what's really super cool is when I start to see other daughters exhale themselves. When another daughter does it, other daughters start to do it. You can also ask yourself just one question at some point today. What do I need in this moment? You don't even have to act on the answer. Just letting the question exist inside of your world is going to start to create a new cue to your nervous system. And it's going to be one that says, "We matter. I'm listening." It is possible to start choosing ourselves. It is safe to choose ourselves. We are allowed to be comfortable. And if you like where I'm going with this, hold on to your hats. I've got another. How about this one? What would it feel like if you were to choose just one tiny thing you are no longer going to apologize for today? Something microscopic, your preference, your tiredness, what time you want to go to bed, something you like to do, a quirk you're self-conscious about, something so small your nervous system is not going to rebel, but still that will create a shift. These micro movements probably seem really small. And you guys right here, this is the good stuff. This is where healing stops being something we're talking about and becomes something we're actually doing. These small things, these little micro movements, they matter so much. They become the building blocks of establishing trust with yourselves. They're how safety begins. They're how you create a life where you indeed are your very own best friend. And you don't have to be doing any of this alone. If you want my help beyond the podcast, do find us in group or online. mayhemdaughters.com is going to have all of that information and all of the links. But if you're not ready for that right now, if now isn't the right time, or you already have really good supports in place, all you have to do is stay close to the show because I'm going to be guiding you through this process through the entire year. As always, we are going to be honoring daughters' stories and experiences, and I am going to be offering these real world, real life ways of moving through intense pain and process toward more healing in your bodies. We start next week in an episode for daughters of covertly narcissistic mothers, but really it's going to end up being an episode for all of you because you don't get through the daughter experience without being touched by the covert nature that your moms sometimes use. We're going to start by naming it, and then I'll be working to get you all out of it. And before we go, if no one has told you this today, I am proud of you. I believe in you. You were already enough. You already have done enough. And I hold so much hope for all of you. All of you are in this community of women from around the world who are in this together. And I, for sure, most definitely, am in it with you too. Happy New Year. Bye for now. If you felt seen in this episode, I want you to know the work doesn't end here. What we're talking about on the podcast, relational trauma, mother wounds, identity, and healing, was never meant to be worked through alone. That's why I've built an entire ecosystem of support around Mother Mayhem, and you can now find all of it over at mayhemdaughters.com. You'll learn more about our weekly support groups, which meet Tuesdays at noon and Thursdays at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. These aren't trauma dumps, they're spaces for real connection, mutual support, and movement making. You'll also find our private online community, Mayhem Daughters, where the conversation continues between episodes. It's not social media, it's something safer, deeper, and intentionally designed to support your healing. And if you're not quite ready to share in a group but want my eyes on your story, I offer one-on-one Mayhem consultations as well. You can learn more about all of it over at mayhemdaughters.com. If this show has helped you and you want to help keep it ad-free, you can do that through the sponsor link on the website. But I also want to be clear. If you're already a member of group in the community or you've worked with me one-on-one, you are already supporting the show. There's nothing more I'm asking of you. If you have a story or reflection of your own, I'd love to hear it. You can send a message or a voice note of 10 minutes or less to heather@mayhemdaughters.com. There's no mayhem without your stories or your questions. And if you know another woman who needs this conversation in her life, please share the show with her. Your reviews and social shares make a real difference, and I hope you'll consider doing so. And lastly, a heartfelt thank you to Heather Clark for editing the show. She's been in it with me since 2016 and somehow always knows what I meant to say, even when I don't quite say it right. This isn't just a show, it's a community, and you're already a part of it. I'm so glad to have you in it with me.